Friday, October the 13th, 1972, a Uruguayan plane carrying 45 passengers to Chile crashed in the Andes Mountains. Young men from the Old Christians Club rugby team and some of their relatives faced temperatures of negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit and lack of food, which led them to eat the bodies of the deceased. Only 16 people survived, and they've dedicated their lives to remembering their friends who never returned home. Gustavo Zerbino is one of the survivors, and in this interview, he recalls that life-changing moment and explains how faith sustained them during those days in the Andes.
Gustavo Zerbino, on October 13th, 1972, the plane in which you were traveling with your rugby team crashed into the Andes Mountains. What do you remember about that moment?
Well,
you're taking me back to a key moment, a turning point in my life. In that instant, you're singing and jumping with your friends because you're heading to Chile for a long weekend. And suddenly, in just a second, an air pocket drops you 1,000 meters. The pilot wants to do everything possible to keep the plane from crashing directly into the side of the mountain. So he gives it full throttle, and the plane seems like it's going to break apart. And at that exact moment, right before impact, I unbuckle my seatbelt and stand up. I did the complete opposite of what you're supposed to do, and I felt a whoosh because the plane went into a stall, hit the nose, and broke apart like the cap of a pen. I realized I was alive, and when I took a step back, I sank into the snow up to my waist. At 4,500 meters of altitude, there's no oxygen. Your heart races. The air won't fill your lungs. Your mind moves in slow motion, and your ears and nose start bleeding. You try to stand up, but it feels like you have a 100-kilo backpack on your back.
At what point did you all decide to eat the deceased in order to survive?
We were waiting for the rescue from the outside world. The day we heard on the radio that they weren't looking for us anymore, we realized that the only way to survive was by our own means. The decision was taken unanimously. It wasn't done until we all agreed.
At this moment in the mountains, on those cold, bitterly cold nights, embracing each other, giving each other warmth, in that silence and solitude, the only thing you could hear were the little rosary beads, right?
Yes, at night. For 73 days, every night, we prayed the rosary for 3 reasons. First, to thank God, because we were alive, and ask the Virgin for strength. That day, even though 8 had died in an avalanche, we still gave thanks for being alive. Just being there was reason enough to be grateful. The second reason was that in the darkness of the night, no negative thoughts could take over our minds. And the third was that there were 16 of us, sitting in a circle, and every 5 minutes, someone had to say the rosary out loud, because if you fell asleep, you would freeze to death.
Gustavo, did you have any conversations with God in those days?
All day long, but we had a direct connection. God was the friend who gave you water, who caressed your feet, who embraced you. He was love. In the midst of the mountain, you feel so small, so insignificant, while the mountain is so vast, so immense, that you can truly sense the presence of God.
How was it the day you were rescued?
No one rescued us. We got out on our own. We crossed the mountains ourselves because Parado and Canessa stoically walked for 10 days, climbing and trekking through the mountains, enduring temperatures of negative 40 to 31 degrees Fahrenheit, something not even a person with proper gear could withstand.
On the 50th anniversary of the accident, you wrote to Pope Francis, and you asked him to join in the Eucharistic celebration with you all. Do you remember?
Yes, I met the Pope. I was with him 4 times. We carried out many high-impact actions around the world with Scolas Occurrentes. I wrote to him and told him that this 50th anniversary was important for the world because significant things had happened in the Andes. The Virgin had played a key role. God had given us strength, and we understood that a celebratory and Thanksgiving Mass would be meaningful. It would be good to have a message from him.
What have the years since been like?
Wonderful. Every day, when I wake up, I have 1,440 minutes to do whatever I want. I'm happy. All the things I do in the world remind me every day of my friends who died physically, but live within me and every person who is in front of me is a brother. That's why life is full of hope and a great commitment.
It has been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.